So I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about some of the tools that I use when I work with couples in couples therapy. I've come to learn that a lot of the tools that therapists tend to take for granted, like active listening and I statements and non-defensive communication, those terms are often a lot less clear to most people than we might think. When I say something like empathizing or actively listen to your partner, I think for a lot of people that can just come out as gobbledygook, and they don't actually know on a mechanical level what it looks like to actively listen to your partner, to empathize, to speak non-defensively. So I've decided to come on here and share a little bit in a couple of short videos about what does that actually look like to implement some of these tools. And this will follow pretty closely with how I work through with couples who come into my therapy office. So one of the tools that I come back to time and time again is active listening. And what is active listening actually? It might be something you've heard about, you might think you know what it is, but for a lot of people, actually listening actively to their partner is harder than it might seem. So active listening is when, well, first of all, you're not distracted. So your phone is away, you're not thinking about something else, you're setting aside time to intentionally and actively hear what's coming out of your partner's mouth. And for a lot of people, that's actually a much less common occurrence than you might realize. How often do you shut out all distractions and focus in on one stimulus? So put your phone away, stop thinking about work, put down whatever you're eating, and turn towards your partner and even make eye contact with them. And for however long they want to speak, listen actively to what they're telling you. Just this alone is going to be a big step for a lot of people. As they're talking, don't interrupt them or argue with them. They might make points that you disagree with. They might say things that you have a response to. They might tell you things that you don't think are true. Just let them talk. Give them a moment to speak through what they're experiencing. Maybe this is a conflict in the relationship. Maybe this is a stressful day they had. Whatever it might be, people need the space to just talk without being interrupted. So as you're listening actively, non-distractedly, don't interrupt them or argue with them if you think that something they said is wrong or you want to speak about it. Also, don't try to solve the problem for them. If they're coming to you complaining about work, or if they're coming to you complaining about an aspect of the relationship, just give them space to speak through what their experience actually is before jumping to a solution. There's a difference between problem solving and active listening. And active listening might be a part of problem solving, but when you're listening, try to leave the solutions on the back burner and just hear what they have to say. Think about it as a meditation or a mindfulness practice. Focus in on what your partner is saying while trying to leave all distractions at the door. When they're done speaking, don't respond immediately. Give it a minute to sink in. If someone is speaking to you and as soon as they stop, you give your response immediately, it's going to seem like you weren't really listening, but you were just waiting for your turn to speak, which hopefully you were actually listening. And hopefully you weren't queuing up a response for as soon as they're done. Because if you're doing that, then you're pretty distracted and you're not going to really hear what they have to say. So when they're done speaking, give it a minute to sink in. Now, active listening is a two-part process. You're listening, but it's also active. And the active part is you want to respond to them after they're done and after you've given it some time to let them know that you actually heard what they had to say. So just listening and just taking in information isn't enough to really portray active listening and empathy in a relationship. So when they're done talking and when you've taken a breath, repeat back to them what you heard them say in your own words. If they're telling you about their work situation, repeat back and say, I hear that you're really stressed about that. If they're talking about an aspect of the relationship, say, I hear that you're frustrated with this aspect of our relationship. It might sound rudimentary and almost too simple, but this is an important building block of building trust and building a constructive communication dynamic. So repeat back what you heard them say in your own words, keep it simple, and just let them know that you heard what they said on a basic level. When you do respond, try to really get in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, rather than just having it be a cursory attempt at repeating back the exact words they said. Try to actually get in the mindset of where they might be coming from and what they might be feeling. Maybe they even told you some of the things that they're feeling. Repeat back that you heard that they're feeling X or Y or Z. Let them know that you heard their words, but you also heard what was going on underneath. If someone's sharing something with you, chances are there's a lot going on for them that they want you to hear. They don't just want to speak endlessly to a blank wall. They want to feel heard, and they want where they're coming from to be acknowledged and understood. So repeat back to them, tell them you heard what they said on a context level, but tell them you heard what they said on an emotional level as well. And if they didn't share any emotions, maybe you can guess what they might be feeling. Wow, you must be feeling so frustrated. I can see that this is really upsetting to you. That sounds really boring. Things like that will help communicate to your partner that you're invested in what they're saying, you're interested in what they're saying, and you want to have this back and forth communication. Once all that is done, you can get to the more advanced ideas like conflict resolution or I statements, or getting to an actual solution to the problem at hand. But this is a fundamental building block of relationships and communication. And if this gets skipped over, I see it time and time again, it's really hard to move past to the next levels of communication and connection. If there's not a baseline of respect, reciprocity, and active listening, if both partners don't feel deeply like their partner has heard them and has understood where they're coming from, or wants to hear them and wants to understand what they're coming from, it gets really hard to navigate more complex and tricky topics like how do we solve these complex problems in our relationship, or what do we need to do from here to navigate this conflict. On a basic level, make sure that you're brushing your teeth and flossing your teeth every day in the relationship. In other words, make sure that you're doing the basic maintenance of the relationship dynamics. That's not necessarily fun or exciting, but is a fundamental building block of general relationship health. Walk before you run. So I hope this gives you a little bit more insight into how to actually actively listen. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'd love to respond. I think that for a lot of people, these basic ideas, or what to me or other therapists might seem basic, isn't so basic. We're never taught how to actually listen. We're never taught how to actually attend to and attune to the other person. And these are really important building blocks in relationships, in romantic relationships, but also friendships, professional relationships, work relationships. So try practicing this. Don't be distracted, make eye contact, don't respond immediately, give them space to talk, and when you do respond, repeat back what you heard them say and what emotions they might be experiencing, and see how it goes.